Okay. Okay. So Doomcock. Doomcock is an embarrassing individual who focuses his entire channel on being way too into his character, which is basically a ripoff of Doctor Doom, but if Doctor Doom was an anti-SJW weirdo. And he spends all his time talking about how much he hates modern Star Trek, how much he hates modern Star Wars, except for maybe The Mandalorian, although I'm not super clear on that. And how he wishes George Lucas would come back to direct a Star Wars movie, which is hilarious considering George Lucas is a bad director. He is consistently lying and taking lies from 4chan and peddling them as if they are real. People have tricked him before. I forget the guy's name. I'm sorry. But he has a really good Star Trek YouTube channel. A different guy. Let me find him real quick just so I know. Star Trek. I know it starts with a K. What's his channel name? Ketwalski. Yeah.
So
Ketwalski, who's a Star Trek YouTuber. Check out Ketwalski. Has 20,000 subscribers. Definitely worth checking out. Here's a link to one of his videos. Him and a group of other people decided to troll Cast Iron Pan with 100 bits. Have a cleanse. Oh god, we can watch Potion Seller later. I've seen it. So Ketwalski trolled Doomcock by putting a bunch of fake rumors that they manufactured for this onto 4chan to see if they could bait Doomcock into reporting on this made-up information. And what do you know? Not only did Doomcock report on this made-up information, but then, as Doomcock always does, he says something along the lines of, "My sources inside of CBS tell me," and then he confirms it. Thus confirming that his sources are bullshit because they confirmed something that was manufactured by Ketwalski. So Doomcock does a lot of stuff where it'll be like, "Oh, Discovery's getting it's getting canceled. Discovery's canceled." Every other week it's some bullshit 4chan post about how Discovery's getting canceled. But what do you know? Once again, it's been renewed for season 4. Actually, I have a comment on this that's doing okay. Anyway, the new episode from Season 3. Season 3 just came out of Star Trek Discovery, and this is Doomcock's review. So let's see what he thought. I enjoyed the first episode. Let's try and see how long we can deal with his profoundly negative, weird bullshit opinion. Toeen24, don't pull that evil on Dr. Doom. For all his evil, at least Doom is anti-fash. Is he? Because in Secret Wars, when Doom got the powers of the, why am I blanking on the name? Oh my god, of the Outsider. When Dr. Doom got the powers of the Outsider, he set up a fascist dictatorship with him as the God King. So I don't know how anti-fascism he is. He's anti-other people's fascism, but he himself is fine as long as he's the fascist on the throne, you know?
Greetings, my friends. Please make certain that you are still subscribed to this channel because every day I'm hearing from other people that they have been unsubscribed without their knowledge by YouTube. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. My friends, 3 years ago, I launched my YouTube channel for one reason: to express my rage and disgust at the atrocity that was Star Trek Discovery.
Imagine calling a TV show you don't like an atrocity. An atrocity, guys! So let me give my opinion on Star Trek Discovery, since we're going to be talking about it. I thought the first I thought the first season was pretty rough. I thought it was a little too grimdark. But otherwise, I thought it was promising. But yeah, it wasn't that great. And I haven't really gone back to watch the first season a ton. I think I've seen it through twice, because I watched it and then I watched it with Baha to get her caught up, because she's a fan of Star Trek, but she hadn't watched the new series. Season 2, I think, got a lot better. Season 2 is actually quite good, in my opinion. It's not the same as Star Trek TNG. Do not go in expecting Star Trek TNG, because that's not what it is. But as its own thing, I think it's a good show in the Star Trek universe. I think it's fun. And I have gone back and watched some Season 2 episodes. I still enjoy them. So now Season 3 came out. The first episode happened. Spoilers. Spoilers, by the way, for Star Trek Season 2 at the very end, and Star Trek Season 3, Episode 1, Star Trek Discovery, specifically. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit. So if you haven't seen it and you care, I guess don't watch this segment, but, like, it's nothing world-changing, I guess. Except it literally changes the setting of the show. So at the end of Season 2 of Star Trek Discovery, the crew jumped from the 22nd century, whatever century Kirk is from, where the show has been happening, and they were going to jump to the future. And they have. So now Season 3 onward is going to take place the furthest in the future that we've ever seen in Star Trek. We are now in, like, the 31st or the 32nd or even the 33rd century. I'm not exactly sure which it is. So this is almost 1,000 years after Kirk and Spock and all that. It's very interesting. The 2200s? Or the 3300s? I don't know. And that's quite interesting. And it turns out, after Commander Burnham lands, she discovers that they did in fact save the future, because their entire thing in Season 2 was there was something happening that was going to destroy the future. They succeeded, but in the interim, while they were gone, something called the burn happened, which caused all the dilithium in the universe to explode all at once, and it took out... It basically wiped out the Federation, because Federation ships use dilithium in their process. It's not actually fuel for the warp engines, to my knowledge. It's something else that happens in the process of using the warp engines. So the Federation no longer exists. It's quite interesting as a conceit for the series now. It seems like Discovery is going to try and rebuild the Federation in the 31st or 32nd century, or whenever it is. 32nd century? Thank you. And they ran into a character who's been sort of holding an office for the Federation. We saw some cool technology from the future. It looks like nanotechnology is a big thing, so that we have, like, beds and desks and stuff appearing from nowhere when they're not in use. We have personal transporters, which I thought was pretty cool. Instead of needing, you know, a ship to transport you or whatever, you just have a little device that you can wear, and you can transport yourself from place to place. I don't know the range, they haven't said, but that's pretty cool, and a good advancement of the Star Trek technology. Yeah, it seems like a fun show. The first episode I thought was good, and I'm excited to see where it goes.
This thing was not only an insult to Gene Roddenberry's vision of a brighter future for humanity, it was an insult to the...
If this is an insult to Gene Roddenberry's vision for a brighter future for humanity, so is Deep Space Nine. And Deep Space Nine is one of the best Star Trek series. Like, I love Gene Roddenberry, and I love that optimistic view of the future that we see in TNG and TOS. But I think part of it can be a little naive, and I think there's certainly a place for that in Star Trek. I still think that should exist. But I also like your Deep Space Nine Discovery versions, where it's like, hey, optimism is great, and that's something to strive for, but things aren't perfect, and human beings aren't these perfect, like, animals that are always going to behave morally, so what do you do in those situations? I think that's fair to explore. Tucker White 94, if I didn't know the basics of Star Trek, I'd think Hannah was talking in Mad Libs explaining the plot of Discovery.
The intelligence of viewers around the world. The ugliness of this cynical universe was completely antithetical to the optimism of Star Trek. The characters were bland when they weren't offensive, and the blatant stupidity of the writing was painful to any sentient being witnessing this thing.
Doomcock's hyperbole annoys me too.
On Earth or off. Star Trek Discovery is the worst television show ever made.
Like, how can you watch this and take this man seriously? The worst television show ever made! I would rather watch the Geico Cavemen series which you probably forgot existed, over Star Trek. No. The first season's rough, but after that, I think the show gets good. And even in season 1, there's interesting things going on. When they go to the mirror universe in season 1, I thought that was very interesting.
Which brings us to season...
Plus, I enjoyed Dwight as, Harry Mudd. I thought that was good casting.
3. Knowing that I had to watch this in order to review it made me sick. But being the future ruler...
I'm sure all the clicks you expected to get on this video made you so ill, Doomcock. More rage posting, please.
Of Earth, I pressed on. And although the only thing that kept my head from blowing up was my helmet, I am pleased to say I survived. And here is my review. I would say that spoilers follow, but you can't spoil garbage covered in seagull poop. And so, I'm just going to dive right in. You have been warned. Right off the bat, we are presented with a scene featuring...
What's wrong with this guy? Oh boy, that would take a long time to explain.
Featuring a really boring guy in a suit, living in some kind of nano-suite on a space station. This station makes beds, desks, and alarm clocks that look like birds out of some kind of nanoparticles.
Which was cool. Like, he's gonna shit talk things that even if you don't like Discovery Season 3, I don't know how you could look at the stuff that was in the first scene. In the first scene, we see the day-to-day life of this guy, who is, like, one of the last people working for the remnants of the Federation. He's just sitting in a chair, basically, every day and holding it in case someone from the Federation shows up, even though he's never met anyone from the Federation. It's kind of sad. But even if you don't like the content of the plot, the fact that we're in, like, the 32nd century in the Star Trek universe, and we see, like, basically things being created from nowhere because nanotechnology is so prevalent that, like, when you need furniture, it just creates itself, almost like you're on a physical holodeck. That's cool. That's a cool idea. Like, even if you don't like the series, why do you hate that as an idea? Weird.
It shows this guy in a montage where every single day is the same. This sad little nothing with a black...
Does this season have nanites instead of replicators, basically? We've only seen one episode, so I wouldn't say they're necessarily, like, not using replicators, but we did see nanotechnology being used in multiple places, so it seems like that's a common thing in the future.
Blank face is so boring. Given this nanotech that seems to form whatever he needs, instead of making cool shit out of the nanotech like a functional model of Barbara Eden in I Dream of Jeannie, complete with harem outfit and pliant attitude, which can come in handy when you're living all alone on a space station, trust me.
Is the only thing Doomcock can think to do with nanotechnology is to fuck it? Is that the depth of his creativity is, can I fuck this? Because that's pretty sad.
I know. All he does is sleep, get his teeth cleaned, and lug around a small case with a fractured STD insignia on it. That's it. The insignia, being fractured and of course 25% different, is inadvertently a perfect symbol of...
The 25% different thing is a conspiracy theory. I'm not kidding. There are conspiracy theories within this stupid, like, right-wing Star Trek community, where they think that legally, for some reason, Star Trek Discovery needs to be 25... This is an arbitrary number they pulled out of their butts. They think it legally needs to be 25% distinct from classic Star Trek for legal reasons. How do you gauge that 25%? No idea, but it's what they believe for some reason. Is Doomcock's ideal Star Trek series Tenchi Muyo? I don't know what that is. I assume it's an anime or something.
Of what a broken show Star Trek is now. Thanks to Kurtzman and his staff of incompetents who either utterly hate Star Trek or are doing a hell of an impression of people who utterly hate Star Trek.
No, they don't. And again, I've talked about this before too. Alex Kurtzman isn't the person I think should necessarily be in charge of Star Trek. He's made a lot of bad Star Trek, and I think he does miss a little bit of the reason certain people like Star Trek. I agree. It's missing a little bit of that competency porn. You know what I'm talking about? Where, like, you have Picard and Data and Geordi standing around a console talking this techno problem out, and they have to, like, solve it. And I feel like modern Star Trek misses a little of that. I'm fine with action in Star Trek. Action's always been in Star Trek. Look at the original series. It wasn't like expensive, well-produced action, but almost every episode, you know, you had Kirk punching a guy with his double hammer fist. This is just an extension of that, and that's fine. I'm fine with action, but I do wish there was a little bit more of that techno-babbly stuff. But, like, nonetheless, Kurtzman doesn't hate Star Trek, and to claim so is incredibly stupid. Like, he might have a different vision of what Star Trek is, and we can disagree on that without me thinking he's some evil demon man who secretly hates Star Trek. That's so weird that you believe that.
Classical music plays over this boring scene of a boring man doing boring things, as if classical music playing over a pile of dog poop makes the dog poop.
SC Sig says that's not a bad line of thinking. It's because legally for Paramount to make money off Star Trek stuff they produce, it needs to be some amount different. There was a licensing deal between them and CBS for rights and shit, apparently. What the numbers would be exactly, I don't know, but that's what I've heard. What you've heard is bullshit made up by conspiracy theorists like Doomcock. There is no evidence that that was ever the case. And by the way, CBS and Paramount are now the same company, so it wouldn't even make sense. They merged a year or two ago. So that line of thinking, especially now, makes no sense. But even back when they weren't the same company, there was no evidence that that was the case.
Classy.
Basically, it comes out of there was an artist for
funny about the tools of capitalism.
there was an artist for Discovery, like a production artist who worked on the ships. And at the end of Star Trek Discovery Season 1, they run into the OG Enterprise, the NC-1701, like Kirk's Enterprise, but before Kirk is on it. And the designer was told, like, make it look like the classic ship, but like 25% different. And so all of a sudden, all the dumb people like Doomcock are like, 25% different? They must legally have to make things 25% different. No. Nope. It was just them basically saying we want it to be the Enterprise, but, you know, make it your own, make it modern, but, you know, make it a recognizable Enterprise. They really latched on to this, though, and that's the entirety of their basis for believing that things in Discovery need to be 25% different. Cascadia 93. What the best bits of TNG was where Picard and Data and Geordi figuring out how to end really serious stuff with
That's
just
right,
by
capitalism
thinking about it.
propaganda.
Yeah, I get that. Oh boy. Rip Van Sour, thank you for following.
Now we get a hilariously mediocre opening scene where, guess what? A guy in a ship is being chased by another guy in a ship who is complaining, "Return what you stole from me." And it's supposed to be all exciting, see? Even though we don't give a shit about the pilot or about the guy pursuing the pilot, don't know anything about the cargo, and
Do you not know how TV shows work? Sometimes you start in the middle of action, and then you go back and you explain what's going on. That's a normal thing.
don't care. That is STD in a nutshell. A lot of noise and blasters and cursing, and despite all the racket, we don't care in the slightest because, newsflash, people only care about real characters and good writing. And there really isn't much in the way of characters on STD and good writing.
What? Yeah, there is? Like, what? Like, you can dislike the characterization of Michael Burnham if you want. Like, talking about how you think maybe she's a little too serious and she could stand to chill out a little bit. But she's like a fleshed out character, especially in Season 2 with a relationship with Spock that we saw a lot of. Like, we also have the Kelpian, whose name I'm forgetting, who is interesting in that he was so afraid and had the, like, sense of danger, and then the things fell off, and now he's, like, very confident. Saru's his name. We also have the red-haired woman. Again, I forget their names for a second until I think about them for a sec. Tilly. We have Tilly, who is like a very exuberant young Starfleet lieutenant, but she's like kind of klutzy and a little like scatterbrained, and that's fun. You have Culver and his husband, and that story's really cute. Like, there's characters on the show, and they're fleshed out. If you don't like them, that's fine. That's your business. But, like, to act like these aren't fleshed out characters at this point is a lie. That's just a lie. That's a lie. Saru gang rise up. I do like Saru.
Well, don't hold your breath. You get cliches, smug lines,
Cliches in Star Trek. Oh no, wouldn't want that.
pieces of wood being the bestest ever, but nothing human or warm whatsoever to give a damn about. In this oh-so-blue little turd of a universe, a fart bubble in Roddenberry's franchise, isolated from everything that came
Doomcock. Roddenberry's been dead for 40-something years. He's been dead for so long. I think it was... Let me think for a second. 80s... Roddenberry has probably been dead longer than Star Trek was a thing before he died. There has been more Star Trek material created after his death, but then before it at this point. Star Trek is not defined by what Roddenberry wanted. And I know that's like an auteur thing where you want to be like, oh, Star Trek is the brainchild of Roddenberry. I mean, to an extent, but at the end of the day, most Star Trek material that is in existence was not made with him as a part of it because he was dead. So to say that, like, Star Trek needs to be slave to the opinions and beliefs of a man who's been dead for 40 years is silly and stupid. Tucker White 94, quick aside, what exactly satisfies the rant Sona space on the card? This is a rant Sona. He's playing a character, he's got a helmet on, that's a rant Sona.
came before it, and smelling really bad. And speaking of the bestest ever,
The first season of TNG is the most control Roddenberry had over any season of any Trek, and it was dog shit. Yeah. He's been dead for 29 years exactly. Well, there you go. And by the way, like, it's fine to like Gene Roddenberry for, like, Star Trek and stuff, but also he was kind of a shit person. He, like, cheated on his wife very regularly, and then he took his girlfriend and, like, stuck her into the shows constantly because he kept trying to get her work. Like, the dude had some cool ideas, but he was also a dick, like everyone.
Mikey Spock pops up in her blue angel suit. They called it a red angel suit originally, but like everything else on this ugly little mess, it's blue. And she gets hit by the thief fleeing from the other dude. That's right, she jumps out of a wormhole in her red angel suit and gets slammed into.
Why does he think saying the bestest ever in that voice? Because he thinks that, like, her being competent makes her a Mary Sue, even though almost every character in Star Trek in Starfleet is always painted as incredibly competent. But because she's, like, a woman, he's got to think it's, like, some sort of, like, conspiracy. Like, oh, the SJWs making a Mary Sue character. Like, if it was Picard, he wouldn't give a shit. He just thinks because it's a woman of color being competent, oh, it must be some sort of propaganda piece. Cascadia 93, I mean, true to the work, whatever, but Scott Card in my Ender's Game and Rowling in my... but the less Scott Card in my Ender's Game and Rowling in my Potter, the better. Yeah.
By the guy who is fleeing from the other guy he stole some cargo from. So, the spaceship we don't care about smashes into a character we don't care about.
You don't care about. You don't care about. You don't like the show, Doomcock, and this is gonna blow your mind, Doomcock. If there's a show I don't like and characters that I don't connect to, I just don't watch that show. I don't hate watch it for years and years and years. If you don't care about the main character of Discovery, Michael Burnham, that's fine. You don't have to, but then don't watch the show. Why are you complaining about a show being produced for people that like the show, people like me, when you don't like it? It's fine. It doesn't have to be for you if you don't like it. Go watch something else. Go watch TNG or Deep Space Nine. Those exist still. Toeen 24, I bet he loves Wrath of Khan, which is very much like modern Star Trek. The hypocrisy is strong in this fanboy. Yeah. Baja Blast. I wonder if Commandant is going to complain about the fact that for the most of the ep, there were no white people, because I loved that, and I'm sure the Nazis do not. Yeah, I didn't mention it, but in the first episode of Star Trek Season 3, was there a single white human with a line? I don't think there was. Michael Burnham was the main character, because she's the POV character, basically, who just got launched in the future. And then we have the space smuggler, whose name is Book, who I like. I liked him in the first episode. He basically smuggles endangered animals. He tries to stop poaching. It's a cool character. And he seems to have psychic communication powers with the animals. It's pretty cool. And then we had a bunch of aliens, but I don't think there was a single white person with a line, and the fact that that probably annoyed Doomcock makes me happy.
And both crash land on a planet. Excited yet? Welcome to STD Season 3, boldly going where no Star Trek has gone before, into a sea of red ink and financial losses. Hey.
Doomcock, they just got renewed for Season 4. Why do you keep saying this? How many times? My God, I hope Star Trek Discovery goes into 8 seasons. I just want it to get one more season than Star Trek The Next Generation, so this guy will stop saying it's a failure. This could literally get as many episodes of Star Trek TNG, and he'd still be like, it's a financial failure, it's a disaster. Clearly it's not. They keep making it.
Maybe that's why Mikey Spock is the Red Angel. She delivers CBS from profits. Angels we have heard on high, no merch in the stores to buy. That's right, friends. This show stinks so much.
What is this idea that he thinks Star Trek needs to have merchandisability to be profitable? It's not Star Wars. There's been some Star Trek merchandise. I think I own a couple Star Trek, merchandise things, but it's never been a franchise that's made its money on merchandise like Star Wars. Kids weren't playing with little Spock and Kirk dolls back in the 60s as often as they were playing with, Luke Skywalker figures in the 70s. It's just not that kind of franchise.
Almost no one wants to license anything from it. Look around Walmart, Target, the supermarket of your choice. The licensees have all but abandoned this show because they know what CBS still hasn't figured out. No one watches STD, and no one wants a Mikey Spock.
A lot of people do. In international Netflix, where the show gets, they have a deal with Netflix where it's broadcast on Netflix internationally, and in the States it's on CBS All Access. But, it was, on the top 10s on Netflix the day that the first episode was released. It's a popular show. You don't have to like it, but yeah, a lot of people do.
Spock action figure or a Saru napkin display.
Does this count as Go Woke, Go Broke? Yeah, I'll count that. That counts. Do I have that one? I don't think I do. Get woke, go
There's
broke.
nothing funny about the tools of capitalism.
Yes, Walmart, the beating hub of culture.
Spencer or a Tilly double beer holder. Think about it. Indeed, this show sucks so bad, it has actually sabotaged the merchandising of regular Star Trek toys and products as well. I was recently
How would that work?
told that someone found McFarlane, Captain Kirk, and Captain Picard action figures discounted at Walgreens.
Because no one... Oh, let me put it this way. Because children don't buy Star Trek merchandise. Because kids don't want to play as Captain Picard. How do I put this? Kids don't want to play as Captain Picard negotiating a peace treaty between two nations. Captain Picard is cool, and I'm sure there's a plethora of Captain Picard merchandise for adults out there that's cute or that's fun. But, action figures? I've never seen Picard as a very action figure-y guy. You know what I mean?
Mikey Spock is the Red Ink Angel, and she has led Viacom CBS into the...
Yeah, Star Trek isn't really a kid's show, and it hasn't been for quite a while. I'd argue, actually, Star Trek Discovery, with the amount of action it has, is probably more kid-friendly than, TNG or Deep Space Nine. Those weren't really made for kids. You know what I mean? Kids can watch them, but they weren't really made for kids or toys. Tucker White 94, everything Doomcock says right now should come with a giant citation needed sticker. Yeah.
Desert of brokenness to wander for the next 40 years. Go, Kurtzman. No, really, go, Kurtzman. Please, go. Go away, would you? So anyway,
He's so salty, and I kind of love it.
more nonsense happens. Mikey Spock's red ink angel suit is damaged in the collision with the planet, but not really all that much, I guess, because it flies off of Mikey Spock, reassembles itself in the air like Iron Man's armor,
Yeah, it's like a super future time travel suit.
and as the wormhole she arrived in starts to close, Mikey Spock sets the red ink angel suit to self-destruct and sends it shooting up toward the wormhole, where it blows up. Ta-da! But sadly, destroying the red ink angel suit
Is it weird you prefer TOS? No, not at all. Like, you can like whatever Star Trek. You can like Enterprise if you want. I don't care.
doesn't help CBS bail out
Unlike Doomcock, I don't gatekeep fandoms. You can like whatever you want, and you can dislike whatever you want. If you don't like Discovery, that's fine. If you don't like TOS or TNG, that's fine. It doesn't matter to me. It's just when you try and, like, rant towards other people, like, not only do I not like this, everyone should hate it, and it is an objective failure because I personally don't like it. That's when it gets embarrassing.
of the red ink, as CBS, with season 3 of STD, is still paying a lot of money for a show fans don't watch.
I watch it. I watch it. I'm a fan of Star Trek.
Fun fact, gang, did you know STD is pound for pound one of the most expensive shows ever made, but airing in primetime on CBS right now? It gets beaten in the ratings by game shows.
Because they already showed the first 2 episodes. This is a complete red herring. This was something that a lot of people who like Doomcock and the people from the fandom Menace, which is what they're sort of called, mentioned this. They're like, oh my god, Star Trek Discovery just got run on CBS and it got terrible ratings, ignoring the fact that the first 2 episodes were already shown on CBS All Access like years ago when the show premiered, or not on CBS All Access, just CBS broadcast, and then it got like a 10 million share, which would have put it like at the height of it, would have been put it at the top of this chart, right at or right below Big Brother. Like, they already saw those episodes, guys, and people who want to watch Star Trek have probably already seen it on CBS All Access. It's frustrating.
Like Match Game and Celebrity Family Feud, and even a rerun of The Masked Singer. Even without the suit.
Has Doomcock done a new video yet? He hasn't done a video.
Greetings,
He
future.
hasn't done a video since this definitely got renewed for season 4, and I'm so excited for the salt. He's got to do a video where he's mad about it, right?
I think I'll keep calling Mikey Spock the Red Ink Angel. Gotta have some kind of fun watching this trash. Used to be, in the olden days, the writers of a show would put the fun into their scripts. But these days, the only fun is watching.
The first episode of season 3 was very fun. There was a whole action sequence that was a lot of fun where Michael gets drugged. And that was like really, really fun. Did you watch the episode?
The show crash into the ground and self-destruct.
Mikey Spock, he calls her this as derogatory, basically, because her name is Michael Burnham, and she's a commander on the Discovery, which is the ship in the show, if you haven't seen it. And she is a adoptive sister of Spock. So she was raised by Vulcans, and
Nothing funny about the tools
even though
of
she's
capitalism.
human, and he's making fun of her for that, basically, calling her Mikey Spock, which isn't, she doesn't act like Spock, really, so I don't know why he calls her that, other than to be like, she's just like, Spock, she's related to Spock. Andrew Dickerson, I wonder if Doomcock has ever seen the TOS episode 21 of Season 2, Patterns of Force, where Kirk and the gang literally fight Nazis on a Nazi planet. Ooh boy, he probably identifies with the Starfleet officer that, like, set up the Nazi planet, which was a thing. Because that was a weird episode of Star Trek. For those who haven't seen Star Trek, TOS, there's an episode where they go to a planet, and it's like a Nazi planet where Nazi Germany is happening right now. And then they find out how it happened, and it was a Starfleet historian went there and was like, well, they were kind of disorganized, and I, as a historian, thought maybe we could get the efficiency of Nazi Germany without the racial hatred. Whoops, turns out I was wrong. Very strange. Very strange choice on that historian's part.
Just like the Red Ink Angel. So Mikey Spock scans for life, finds life signs, then laughs and screams hysterically, over-emoting like an idiot in slow motion.
Wait, is she bland, or is she over-emoting? Which one is it, Doomcock? She's excited that all the life in the universe wasn't wiped out like in the original timeline. I don't know if you can over-emote for that. Tucker White 94, Star Trek fighting Nazis is the kind of corny sci-fi schlock that I live for. Yeah.
For what feels like about 10 minutes. Forgetting that she hasn't actually been isolated on a desert island for 3 years. She just landed and finds within minutes of landing that there's life there. So why the hysteria?
Because in the original timeline, they were trying to prevent all life in the universe was dead, and when they went to the future, they prevented that timeline, and they prevented all life in the universe from being wiped out. Did you even watch the show? Did you watch the show, dipshit? Do you not even know why she's excited? Oh my god, he doesn't even know the plot of the show he's criticizing. Ah! What a moron.
It's like she was crying and yelling, Wilson, without a volleyball. I guess it's because Mikey Spock has been labeled as wooden for 2 years, so now they wanted to give her an emotional and fiery moment, but we're not really impressed since we already know wood burns. So setting that log on fire, not really a big deal. Plus, this plot point is especially stupid, since the computer doesn't say what kind of life it has detected.
It doesn't matter what kind of life, Doomcock. It's that life is existent in the future, because the entire point of going to the future was to prevent... Oh, God, you have to get into the plot of Season 2, but basically there's a rogue AI that is going to use the Star Trek Discovery, the USS Discovery, as a means of increasing its intelligence to the point where it will end up destroying all life in the universe. So they remove themselves from the timeline, thus preventing that from happening. And so they wind up in the future, and there's life, whereas they had seen the future previously, and there was no life in the entire galaxy. So when they got to the future, and she scans, and it's like, there's life, she's like, yeah, we did it. We succeeded in the mission that was the goal of Season 2. Which you would know if you watched the show, Doomcock. Are you just jumping around? And you're like, I don't know why people like this show. When you're watching random episodes and it's a serialized show.
And just looking around, there are plants and birds and rocks and things. So why she gets all jumping jack flash full of gas over life being detected is really just par for the subpar course, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't say, hey, there are humans, or hey, I found your crewmates. It just says life detected. And since there's soil, air, water, and birds, no shit, Sherlock. At least we know that computer isn't an AI. There is no I there. It's just an A. So she strolls down a beach, gets incompetently attacked by the pilot she crashed into originally. She kicks his ass because she's the bestest ever, and he's a dude, so...
Again, she's a commander on one of the most important ships in the Starfleet. In the fleet of Starfleet. That sounds redundant, but that would be correct. And you're confused why she's competent at her job. Like, this would be like if when Data did something in TNG, I was like, oh, Data, he's the bestest ever! Like, yeah, he's a main character on the show. And having competent main characters is something that you wanna have in Star Trek, typically. Oh, frustrating.
Girl power, even though he's way bigger than she is, came up behind her and missed. He even has a knife, for God's sakes.
She also trained in Vulcan martial arts, and they established this in canon. True.
But sadly, he brought a knife to a wooden plank fight, and the wooden plank won. Again. I fought the plank.
That's not even what happened. She ended up pulling out a phaser and that stopped the fight. She has a phaser, and that stopped the fight. Because she had a gun, basically, and he didn't.
Plank and the plank one. Isn't that always the case? Because she's the bestest ever. But I digress. So the guy, named Book, doesn't want to know her name, wants nothing to do with her, attacks her repeatedly. She gets the drop on him with a phaser. He starts walking away. She says, I have lost my crew, please help me. I mean, that changes everything, right? Sure, all you had to do was ask. Despite all the unpleasantness and the fighting and him saying, I don't want to know your name, I don't want to know anything about you. Sure, okay, come on back. He invites her back.
It's the trope of like a smuggler with a heart of gold. It's very Han Solo. It's not exactly original, but it is a thing. And through the episode, we discover that while he is very standoffish and he tries to keep people away from him because of how dangerous his work is in smuggling endangered species so they can get to a refuge that he and his friends have where they can be away from poachers, we find that he's very empathetic. I don't know if he's like they didn't get a ton into it, but he can clearly talk to animals with his, like, abilities. So I don't know if he's, like, an empath, like Counselor Troy, or if he's just, like, a straight-up psychic with animals, but he's clearly very empathetic towards beings in need. So even if he's being standoffish in this moment, it makes sense that he helps her based on what we learn in the episode you supposedly watched. Do you understand how that works, Doomcock? You moron!
Back to his crash ship, introduces her to his cat, and then they set off to buy some dilithium crystals at the local flea market on this barren island. Book cloaks his ship, so I guess it can cloak even though it doesn't have any dilithium crystals. Remember when cloaking a ship took a massive amount of power? Ah, those were the treks.
It's the 32nd century. We have no idea what other alternative power source he's using to power the cloak. And again, I don't think dilithium is an actual power source. It's something used in warp reactions, but it's not like the fuel, typically. I think it's used in some other way. I don't remember. Not that it matters either way. It's just like a sci-fi concept. But, like, we're 1,000 years in the future. Who knows what they're using to power their cloak or what technology exists? That's kind of the point of setting it really far in Star Trek's future, so you can, like, have your own rules and be like, wow, look at how things have progressed.
And so, Book and Mikey
And also, this kind of canon, like, bullshit, as much as I enjoy that conversation if it's being had in good faith, though I don't think that's what Doomcock is doing here. He's trying to use some lack of, like, canon consistency in the technology as a gotcha against the show when 99% of the audience does not give a shit. I find canon interesting, but it does not matter to the story being told at all. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Fox stroll through the desolate countryside, talking about...
It's used to stabilize antimatter in the magnetic field. Okay.
...exposition.
It's a medium used to control a matter-antimatter reaction. Thank you.
Turns out, the Federation is gone. Book doesn't know what happened, but he points out that the awful splintered badge she wears is an antique. Turns out the Federation is gone, just like the Star Trek franchise itself. As he expositions at her, he reveals that apparently the Federation got destroyed in the Burnham.
Did Hannah prep for this video, or is she just this knowledgeable on the worst series of Star Trek? I'm very knowledgeable on Enterprise, thank you very much. But, I like Discovery. First season's rough, but I do like the second too. It's far from the worst Star Trek material ever made. That would be, TNG seasons 1 and 2. Most of it, at least. And Enterprise. Those are trash.
I mean the burn. Mikey Spock doesn't know what the burn was, and so he tells her. Back when Les Moonves wanted to punish Shari Redstone for opposing him, and knowing his days at CBS were numbered because of all that unpleasantness with women and so on, he negotiated a contract from hell designed to absolutely destroy the show he despised, Star Trek. Moonves negotiated a contract to make sure Alex Kurtzman, a guy who knew nothing about Star Trek and yet had the arrogance to think he knew everything about Star Trek, would forever be in control of the brand.
The Ender 92. I have had things I enjoy turn bad, but you know what I do if I don't like something? I don't watch it like an adult. You Doomcock, you petulant child. Yeah, same. Like if I didn't like Star Trek Discovery, and like I said, I had problems with the first season. I just, luckily, once season 2 came around, I ended up liking it, so I like the show. But like if I didn't like it, I'd just be like, oh, that's a bummer. Gonna go watch something else, and then I'd go watch something else. Like, not a big deal. We live in a world of perpetual franchising. If you don't like Star Trek Discovery, it doesn't matter. There'll be new Star Trek. I would say normally 10 years from now, but there's already new Star Trek. Lower Decks exist, which is a very funny show. It's sort of a comedy animated show set in the Star Trek universe. A lot of it's just reference humor, but it's funny reference humor if you're into that sort of thing. And they're also doing Strange New Worlds, which is going to be the Captain Pike Spock show. So Star Trek is more prolific than it's ever been, and that'll probably continue. But even if it doesn't in this form, in 10, 15 years, there'll probably be another Star Trek series. It's just too big of a franchise to die. Like, and that's fine. Who cares?
That CBS would never ever be able to break the contract, and by the time it ran its course, nothing of value whatsoever would remain of Star Trek.
Iron Q-Bolt, you're totally right. I forgot Discovery was a thing.
Yep, what a burn! Yeah, and that's the story of the Burnham. I mean, the burn that destroyed Star Trek. However, Book lies to Mikey Spock in this episode, leaving out all the stuff about Kurtzman and Moonves, claiming instead that the burn was a time when most of the dilithium in the galaxy went boom, just spontaneously exploded. No more warp-capable ships. Starfleet collapses, Federation collapses, and
they didn't say there are no more warp-capable ships. What happened was, again, Starfleet ships. Not all ships use dilithium for this antimatter-matter reaction stuff. Other species have different things going on, but a lot of ships use dilithium in some way or another, and having them explode basically wiped out the Federation's fleet in a day. So the Federation collapsed. And starships, especially if you don't already have starships, are very resource heavy and difficult to build. So it was just a situation that really effed over the Federation. There are other ships that have warp. We know that. Book's ship has a warp drive. We know this. Like, there are ships out there that can warp. I don't know what their maximum warp rating is, but nonetheless, they can do so. It's not that warp is not a thing anymore. It's just that so many ships being destroyed and the infrastructure being destroyed across the galaxy screwed a lot of civilizations up. Cascadia 93, are you saying that you don't rewatch and or are obviously not WWE fans? Are you saying that you don't hate watch, rather? I don't hate watch things.
And so here we are. Take that, Roddenberry. So much for your optimistic, adventurous, exciting vision of humanity's future. Take that and shove it up your dead ass, courtesy of Alex Kurtzman and his pals. So civilization pretty much collapsed, and they wander the desolate island until they come to an inexplicably vast super high-tech city, which is...
It's not inexplicably. It's... it's a city owned by the Tellarites and... oh gosh. The power in this region are the Tellarites, which if you don't know are the blue aliens with the antenna in Star Trek, which I appreciate. More Tellarites, please. And the green species. I forgot their name. And they have a partnership, and they have built this trading post. And it's very high-tech, Doomcock, because again, we are in, like, the 32nd century. So it's going to be high-tech relative to what we're usually seeing in Star Trek. It can still be a backwater outpost while being very high-tech because it's 1,000 years in the future almost from where we were last season. Life's too short to hate, watch, read, play things. Agree.
It's kind of like finding Hong Kong.
Which is why I do it as my job.
Downtown Laredo. And so,
Andorians and Orions, thank you.
Mikey Spock goes to the bazaar to sell her antique Starfleet equipment, despite the fact that the designs of that antique Starfleet equipment are so hideous that Todd McFarlane canceled a license to sell STD phasers, realizing no one wanted them, and if he tried to sell them, the Red Ink Angel would ruin him too. She gives good old
They look basically the same as classic ones.
Book her.
Again, I find the idea that, like, oh no, everyone pulled out of, like, licensing deals for Star Trek. Like, again, Star Trek merchandise has never sold well. It sells amongst a very niche, nerdy group. And I agree, if I saw, like, oh, you want a phaser that looks like one from the TOS and it's like $20, $30, if I had the extra money, I might buy it. I like plastic crap. But, like, I don't search out Star Trek merchandise. I enjoy Star Trek. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. I'm a Star Trek fan above being, like, a Star Wars fan. But, like, I don't know. It's just not a merchandisey show for me. There's nothing about it that I really like except for maybe the ship designs. Like, if I saw some cool models of the ships, maybe that. But that's about it.
Ugly knockoff of a Wah-Chang tricorder that doesn't look like a Wah-Chang tricorder at all. Then Book tricks her into trespassing into a secure area. She gets nabbed in a stasis field that
Welcome, Daddy Sume.
lassos around her like a lasso that grows red, lasso-ly. Then they arrest her and Book takes off with her stuff. The guards drug her so they can interrogate her, and in yet another attempt to showcase her amazing acting abilities, she yammers on, laughing for the rest of the scene like
This was a funny scene. I liked this scene.
she's drunk playing a drunk in a high school play. And how does she do? To quote one of the game shows that would surely beat STD in the ratings like all the other game shows in prime time these days, the password is overacting. She gibbers, she jabbers, she waves her arms around, she laughs, she cries. It's all just so wonderful with fun.
She's on alien drugs. She's on alien drugs. That's the joke. Congrats. You've gotten the joke.
Funny music playing, telling us we should laugh. Only I didn't. The only thing to laugh about at
Yeah, dude, you hate the show. Of course you didn't laugh.
this point is CBS thinking this crap is Star Trek, and that somehow they're gonna still make some money off this garbage. So the Red Ink Angel convinces the guards to help her go get Book. Then it turns out that the guy that was chasing Book because
There was an entire episode of Star Trek The Next Generation where the problem was there was a phenomenon that was making everyone on the ship act like they were drunk. Characters getting drugged by alien things or phenomena is not new to Discovery.
Book stole some cargo from him, has caught up to Book. So then Mikey Spock shows up with the guards and punches Book. Then Mikey Spock helps Book to escape by shooting up everything, all while laughing and joking on the drugs like an idiot. And yeah, it does play as annoying and random as it sounds. Kind of like a kid writing a story and saying, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then it goes, and then it goes pew pew. And then the
Never forget that episode in TNG when Data got laid.
kid gets beat up on the playground for his lunch money because he's annoying the other kids. STD is costing CBS its lunch money, but that's what happens when you die.
Again, there's no evidence of that.
Nothing funny about the tools of
Doomcock.
capitalism.
CBS is a for-profit company. If they were losing money on Star Trek Discovery, why would they have just renewed it for Season 4? What would the purpose be? Why would they be doing Lower Decks, which again was very successful and very funny? Why would they be doing the other spin-off series that they're working on? The premise that they are somehow losing money on Star Trek Discovery, like, if that turned out to be true, fine, but I would be very confused about their actions if that were the case. If you have evidence that it's actually losing money, then demonstrate that. But if you have no evidence of it, when you keep insisting that it's losing them money hand over fist, and they keep renewing it, it just makes you look like an idiot.
With the Red Ink Angel, it takes your lunch money. So then Mikey Spock stumbles across some tiny shards of dilithium crystals that are just lying around, easily accessible in a case in the open.
No, they were in a laser grid Again, now he's just lying about the content of what's happening in the show. They were in, like, a laser grid safe, and they had to, like, deactivate it before they could go and, like, get all of them. Like, was he not paying attention? Did he just think he could lie about stuff that's happening in the show? I don't know. Antipodian Squid with 10 bits. Doomcock getting mad that the main character is boring, then gets mad that she acts like an idiot when she's on alien drugs. I'm starting to think maybe he's the boring one, and also never been or seen anyone on drugs. Maybe he needs to learn to have fun. He's just gonna complain about literally everything. Like he just doesn't care. It's not about the actual quality of the show or what's happening. It's just any excuse that he can think of to shit on a show that he doesn't like. Daddy Sume with 10 bits. It was the second episode and it was awful. Daddy developed a crush on Tasha Yar because they boned. When it seemed like she barely noticed he existed after that. It's kind of sad when you notice he keeps that hollow of her. Oh god, true.
Weird kind of thing for something that's become so rare because most of it exploded in the burn. And she scoops up these little tiny shards of dilithium crystal that wouldn't power shit, frankly. And she steals them while laughing like a jackass. And then magically Book and Mikey Spock get transported outside the city.
What do you mean magically? Again, his use of words implies that he wasn't paying any attention. They were magically teleported. No, they literally had a scene where he explains, oh yeah, we have portable teleporters, and he had one, and he used it to teleport them. What do you mean magically? If that's magically, then every use of a teleporter in Star Trek canon is magically. Towing 24, we need that's not how capitalism works for Chud Bingo. True.
But then they get tracked by guys that also magically transport outside the city.
It's not magic. It's they have future teleporter technology where they literally are wearing portable teleporters that can teleport them places. They explain this in the episode you are talking about.
So they have to fight some more with these big clunky flashlight things. Pew, pew. And then they jump again. And the guys jump again.
The flashlight things are guns. They're like guns that go on their fists. A little bit like Mega Man. You know what I mean? It like kind of covers, but then it shoots like a death laser.
Again, more pew, pew. And yeah, rinse and repeat. It's as dumb as it sounds, folks. I'm not going to bother to describe everything that goes on here. They fight. Their weapons need to recharge. Exciting music plays. They escape by jumping off a cliff into some water. And water...
Imagine if I described, like, the scene in Endgame, the final battle, and I was like, yeah, and then there's, like, a bunch of superheroes who just magically get there for no reason, and then, oh, the Hulk runs and he punches a guy, and then Spider-Man's doing stupid web things, and all people are in Iron Man outfits, and they're punching lasers, pew pew, and it was real stupid. Like, you can describe any battle scene that way, and again, it just makes you sound like an asshole. Like, if you don't like the show, that's fine. I understand. That's fine. You don't have to like it. But the fact that you're spending your time to just describe scenes that are fine in and of themselves, including this action scene, like it was well put together for an action scene, it was fine. And the fact that you're just taking your time to whine and be like, oh, it's all just pew pew lasers, it's so stupid, then don't watch it. Then don't watch it. It's fine. You don't have to like it. No one cares if you don't like it.
Messes with the ability of the city guards to track them, and then Mikey Spock punches Book. Just because. Cut to commercial. When they come back, Book then chants and a pattern of red lights appear on his head, and he grows a plant with healing
Pretty sure they're orange
properties out of the ground to heal Mikey Spock. So basically, this is a little bit like Avatar meets The Happening. Hey plant, how's it going? And yes, it's as delightful as it sounds, which is to say, not at all. After the raid on the flea market, Mikey Spock calls for discovery using some of the crystal shards they stole to power a transmitter, but there's no reply. Just like when STD has a panel at a
Riani Dasso Shogun, thank you for following.
Virtual New York Comic Con. They put out a call for fans using their stolen franchise, and there's virtually no reply there either. Funny the parallels in this show between the devastation of the future Federation and the devastation of the
I was so worried when Pike showed up in season 2. I thought they were appeasing the Chuds. It seems so shoehorned during the episode, but he turned out good though. I love Captain Pike, played by Anson Mount. I'm very excited for they're doing the spin-off show Strange New Worlds with Pike as the captain. I think that'll be great. He's a really, really good Star Trek captain.
Star Trek franchise. So yeah, the trackers get the drop on Book and Mikey Spock, the Red Ink Angel yet again. They want the cargo code from Book. Book says they won't want it, so we know it's probably alive and will immediately attack them as soon as they open the cargo bay, and what do you know? It does! Book tells Mikey Spock to close her eyes. They use the code to open the cargo hold, and the monster in the cargo hold comes out and eats all the bad guys, but spares Book and Mikey Spock when Book uses his nature powers to calm and control the monster. Although the monster does briefly eat Mikey Spock, it spits her out. Because apparently, Mikey Spock tastes like shit. So
it's because Book tells the thing to spit her out, and he can communicate with animals. And again, making fun of psychic abilities in Star Trek is very strange. This is not new. Counselor Troi, a main character on the bridge in Star Trek The Next Generation, was an empath betazoid. Betazoids, and she's only half betazoid. Most betazoids have full psychic abilities and can read people's minds and communicate with them telepathically. Like, the fact that this guy is a different alien who can communicate with animals, that's not out of line for Star Trek. There are multiple alien species that have some sort of psychic abilities. Even Vulcans, they can do the mind meld, which is like an extension of some sort of psychic ability. Wagroads 13, this is just the worst. Star Trek fans that hate on Star Trek Discovery is the definition of toxic fandom.
Book?
Troy's mom was Betazoid, not her dad. Did I say the opposite? Sorry if that was the case. Yeah, her Diana, what's her name? What's her mom's name? She hit on Picard a lot.
And Mikey
Loxana Troy. There we go.
Spock, the Red Ink Angel, fly off into space and talk about Book's swell natural nature powers. And turns out Book is a sweetheart. He stole the monster just so he could return it to its home so it could frolic with its pals. So the monster's frolic.
Again, no. You didn't even, like, did he watch the episode? He's not taking it home. He and his friends run a wildlife refuge for endangered species and keep them protected from poachers. He did not take it home. He took it to this sanctuary. Did he even watch the episode, or did he just skim the Wikipedia page? Really don't know on this one.
Frolic a bit, and then Book takes Mikey Spock to an old Starfleet relay station. Then the guy we saw in the opening, the boring guy, remember him? He says, hey, welcome to Starfleet. He introduces himself as the Federation liaison. Mikey Spock asks him about tracking down the Discovery. He tells her, well, it's not in this sector, though there are 2 Federation vessels flying around in the sector. Long-range scans no longer work, so who knows? Mikey Spock tells the guy she's from the past, before the burn, that her ship traveled with her, but they got separated. So now, the guy tells Mikey Spock, yes, this is really boring, isn't it? I'm sorry, but this is the way it is.
Okay, so you don't like when it's pew-pew lasers, and you make fun of that for being too action-y. And now that it's actually slowed down to have a character moment, which this scene is, if you've seen the episode, it's very much a character moment about Michael and this guy who's been, like, holding on to this for someone who's been, in Starfleet, whatever, for however long. Now that it's slowed down, now you're going to make fun of it for being boring. So which is it? Is the show too pew-pew lasers action? Or is it boring, sitting around, talking, exposition, character moments? Do you see what I mean when I'm talking about he's literally he's describing every scene and then criticizing each scene for existing? Like, it doesn't matter what the scene is. He's just picking something about it that you could theoretically criticize and doing that. It's so fucking blatant, and it's so annoying. Dr. Gamble with 10 bits. I'm sorry, Doomcock. I made an oath to refuse any reviews from someone in a bionicle mask.
The guy tells Mikey Spock, He is not a commissioned officer. His father was, his father before him, but not officially sworn in. But this guy just lives in this office every day for 40 years,
Ethendal, thank you for following.
hoping someone will show up.
Yes, which again, you could also complain often about the lack of, like, idealism about Starfleet and say, like, oh, Roddenberry's vision. Like, that's very within Roddenberry's vision that someone who believed in the idea of the Federation would spend every day living on this station just with the hope that someday someone would come along and help them rebuild the Federation. Or Starfleet, whatever. Discovery does do a thing where they kind of conflate Starfleet with the Federation a lot, even though they're technically separate entities. So now I end up doing it. But, like, that's very in line with TNG TOS ethos of the Federation. That is this thing that should exist, and it's full of idealists. So you can't make fun of this while also claiming the show doesn't do this.
And that hope is you, Commander Burnham. He does not know
See ya, Antipodian Squid. Thanks for coming to the stream.
how much Federation still exists, but has, like, just the same, devoted his life and his father's life before him and his father's father's life before that on this silly-ass vain hope that someone from the Federation is going to walk through there and need him. The guy saved a flag for her, so she takes the flag and hangs it up and gives him a commission to be a comm officer to search for her.
Again, he's completely misrepresenting what happens in the scene, which again makes me think he has not actually seen the episode, or if he was barely paying attention. The guy has a flag on his desk, and he says, I'm not a commissioned officer. I cannot hang this flag up, only a commissioned officer can, and it's a Federation flag that he wants to put on the wall. And then Burnham doesn't put the flag up. She says, you can do it. I'm commissioning you as an officer. And it's like a sweet moment where it's like he's been waiting all these years for someone from the Federation to come and commission him so he can actually be a Federation officer. And he then hangs it up, right? Like, he's misrepresenting what happened in that scene almost entirely. Like he was, like, again, like he hasn't seen it, but he read a Wikipedia summary that wasn't completely accurate. It's very strange.
They play noble, uplifting music so that we know the idea of a guy devoting his entire life waiting 40 years on a space station like his dad and his grandfather before him, 40 years doing nothing but sleeping, eating, cleaning his teeth, and staring at a wall with his hand on a Starfleet case like a zombie is inspiring rather than creepy.
I'd imagine he did other stuff. Those are just the things we literally saw him on screen doing. Like, he probably did other stuff.
Can you imagine?
That was just his job, right? He was, like, being a vanguard for the Federation, and that's fine.
What an idiot! This is a guy who never even knew the Federation, never knew Starfleet.
He did. His dad and his grandfather were in Starfleet, so even if he wasn't around during its heyday, he's certainly heard about it from them.
He just hangs out there in his barren space station that doesn't even have permanent furniture, for Christ's sake. Doesn't that sound...
It doesn't need permanent furniture. They have nanobots that can literally make any kind of furniture you need. Very tall hobbit with 100 bits. This guy strikes me as the kind of guy who would go see Transformers, then complain that it was all robots and explosions. That's a good example. Like, I don't like the Transformers movies, but I don't spend all day and make all my videos about how much I hate Transformers and how it's bad. I just don't watch them. I'm not saying it's impossible or a bad idea to criticize things you don't like. I'm saying if it is your focus and that's the entirety of your YouTube channel where you're like, boy, Star Trek sure does suck, am I right? That's pretty embarrassing.
Sound a bit like a version of Purgatory. Welcome to STD. It's a hell of a show. Emphasis on hell. Is there an upside to this episode? Yes. We don't have to put up with Stamens, Saru, Lisa Left Eye, or Tilly, bless her big boobed heart. We don't have to watch evil alternate universe Giorgio committing atrocities and sneering at everything and everyone as being beneath her. We don't have to deal with Dr. Mushroom, no stupid spores, without having to look at the hideous Discovery with its absurdly advanced tech that makes a joke out of every single Star Trek show that came before it just by existing. We aren't constantly bombarded with canon violations, idiocy like Sonar.
Not the canon! Oh no! Who cares?
Are in space, and ugliness like severed Klingon baby heads and gouged out eyes. After all that, a boring barren island, even with Hong Kong hidden in the middle of Laredo, is refreshing as all get out by comparison. Boredom is a nice break from the constant cacophony of caca that is typical in an STD episode. But Sonequa Martin Green has gone from being wooden to stilted overacting that is utterly unconvincing and frankly, a bit embarrassing.
The fact that Doomcock thinks literally anyone else is embarrassing is pretty embarrassing considering his whole thing.
I mean, I'm sure she's a very warm person in real life. I've heard she's well liked on the set. But for some reason, she just can't seem to handle genuine warm scenes with humor and laughter, at least not on this show.
Again, I disagree. I thought the drug scene was funny.
Her laughter comes off as forced and somewhat desperate, tinged with hysteria, as if she's desperately waiting for the director to finally end the suffering and call cut. Book was a little stiff, but otherwise not bad. He seemed genuine at times. Most everyone else was cut out of cardboard, and the actors read their lines accordingly. And thus, my review of Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 1 concludes. And I'm here to tell you folks, it still sucks. Although it is a different kind of suck from what came before, but don't worry. Once the Discovery shows up again, we will again join the originally scheduled suck, already in progress. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry.
Oh my god, he is so embarrassing.
Greetings.
Boy, I cannot wait until the video and the freak out he's gonna have because it got renewed for Season 4. That's gonna be beautiful. God, that one took a while. Sorry, guys. That's enough Doomcock for a bit.